The new Tesla Model Y is finally here. After a kind of weird, staggered launch, we have it in Asia, Australia, Europe, and even the United States. I don't know why they did it that way, waited a few days to give it here in the US, but hey, that's what they did. But now we know exactly what to expect. Or at least that's what we think. This time around, the rumors and speculation were pretty spot on, and well, it's no real surprise considering, a year ago we got the new Model 3. A lot of that is carried over, but it seems Tesla has done even more with the Model Y. And well, that makes sense because this is their best-selling car ever. And because of that, well, the question comes now, is this the car you should be looking at? There's a lot of controversy around Tesla, there's a lot of news about them, but this car in and of itself, is this the one? Well, maybe, but before we get to that, kind of have to address the elephant in the room. This release, well, it's not exactly what it might seem at first. When you go to Tesla's website to buy this new car, let's say you're in the market and this is exactly what you want, you go there, you're going to be greeted with something kind of interesting. This is the old Model Y. Yes, that is the first slot on Tesla's website. And that's kind of interesting considering you think the most popular car they make, maybe they'd want to advertise that a little bit more. But that's where things get a little tricky. Right now, the only new Model Y you can buy here in the US is what they call the Launch Edition. And this means it's kind of like the Foundation series for the Cybertruck. It has every single option available, and well, that means it has kind of the highest price available. And with that, you are getting basically every option available to you, so you can choose whatever exterior color you want, you can choose any of the wheel options, the two that are available, you can choose between the white or black interior, and of course, in typical Tesla fashion, you also are forced to purchase FSD Beta, or I guess they call it FSD Supervised now. All of that is included in the price. So if you're thinking about buying one of these, it's probably worthwhile to get every option you can since you're already paying for it. Now, they do try to butter you up a little bit here because it is the Launch Edition. You get special badging, so you get a badge on the back. There's one in the center console. You get puddle lights that show this badge as well. So when you open the door, it kind of shines a light down on the ground so you can see where you're stepping. And you get the performance boost, which lets you go 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds. And you get vegan suede for the black interior and a premium textile trim on the inside. So you do get a few extra goodies that you won't be able to get on any other option. But for all intents and purposes, the Launch Edition of the Model Y is a spec'd out version. Very similar to what we saw with Foundation series. It's every single option, and well, you don't have a choice in it right now. And so if you're in the market for a Model Y and you go to purchase one right now, well, you might be a bit disappointed because all of the more affordable options that Tesla still has on their site, those are all last generation's car. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with this model. It's clear that Tesla is trying to offload some of these older models before making the full transition to the new Model Y. There's nothing really wrong with that. It's just kind of interesting how Tesla is definitely taking the more tech company approach here. Like, this is exactly what Apple does with the new iPhone. When the 16 Pro gets announced, well, the 15 is still available at a discounted rate. And that's similar to what is happening now. The new car is available, you can get it, it's the most expensive, it's got all the features, but you can still get the other cars, no problem. But it can be a bit deceiving when you think the new Model Y is out, you go to check it out, and well, it's not exactly what you're expecting. In fact, I've seen over on Twitter that some showrooms are being a little even more deceptive because on the new Model Y, they're actually advertising the price of the old Model Y. So it says here, you can see $299 for a lease deal. That sounds excellent, but that's for the old model, but it's on a sticker that's on the new model. That is pretty deceptive, but on the website, there's just a lot of details here that you may not have expected at first. And so what that means is that if you want to buy the new Model Y today and go place your order, the only option you have is to pay $61,630 here in the US. And well, compared to some of the other options of the older Model Y, that's quite a bit of money. Again, the value technically is there because you're getting every option. It just kind of sucks that you're not able to make that choice for yourself. Not yet, at least. Of course, that will come. Now, that brings us to the question, is this actually worth it? Did Tesla do enough for this new Model Y? Now, I'll admit, at first, I did not know exactly how to feel about the design and look of this car. For the interior, of course, it's exactly what we were expecting. If you had seen the Model 3 Highland, it is exactly the same. It's just, with Model Y proportion. Well, not exactly the same, actually. I'm going to catch myself there. There are a few differences. I'll talk about that in a second, but generally, overall, it's a Model 3 Highland interior. And so that part, I think, is excellent. I absolutely love that. Every time I've been in a new Model 3 and driven them, it is a vastly improved experience over the outgoing model, and I expect that exactly to be the same with the new Model Y. But on the exterior, that's where things, I don't know. Design is subjective, so obviously people are gonna love it, people are gonna hate it. For example, I love the way the Cybertruck looks. I don't think it's beautiful or anything, but I just love the way it looks. I think it's cool. Some other people obviously think it's horrible, so that totally varies on a spectrum. I didn't think the Model Y looks horrible when I first saw it. In fact, I think the light bar in the back is amazing. I love it. I don't know that it photographs all that well, but if we go to this launch video that Tesla released, when these cars are driving out in I think this is Death Valley. That's just my guess based on the mountains and everything, but it's over there somewhere, I'm pretty sure. But when you see the Model Y driving on those roads, I think that light bar, the rear end in general, just looks so good. They really nailed that. But then we moved to the front, and I don't know, I had back and forth thoughts on the light bar itself. I do like the way it looks overall, and I love that they really took that Cyber Cab design and just basically moved it on over. If you compare them side by side, they're very, very similar. I love that because I love the design of the Cybercab. I don't know, there's just something about the proportions when you brought it over to the Model Y that just didn't exactly click in my head at first. And also it just felt a little generic. There's a lot of cars on the market right now that are doing this exact same look, and it felt like maybe it just didn't do it all that uniquely. But after seeing more and more content on it as people started posting their hands-on videos and all of that stuff, it started to grow on me a bit more. I do think it makes sense as a company, this design aesthetic of having this light bar up front. I think it makes sense that this is the direction they went. I just don't know if I love it. But actually, after thinking about it even more, we've had this car for a few days. I figured out what my issue with the Model Y design is. It is the wheels. I absolutely hate these wheels. They just look so generic and boring. And the reason I figured out this was the case is because over on Twitter, Unplugged Performance posted a photo of the new Model Y on their wheels. And even though I don't love these wheels, I don't think these wheels are very nice at all. It's personal preference again. But the fact that it's on, slightly bigger and I think just nicer wheels, that kind of transformed the look for me, and I'm back in. All that to say, it was a roundabout way of coming to, I like the design, I think it works. But yeah, on the exterior, those are the main differences. If you look at the car from the side, it looks very similar to the outgoing model, but from the front and back, that's where you see the biggest difference. And I'm excited to see what this light bar looks like in person. It's the first reflective light bar, so it's not just emitting light, it's reflecting off of itself to kind of give you this glow. I think it's a good look. I'm excited to see this on the roads. But let me know, what color do you think this light bar looks best in? And speaking of that, the color options here are kind of interesting. Over in Asia, we got the option of having a new glacier blue. So the regular blue is gone. Now we have this kind of light sky blue. I don't know, I love blue cars, but I've never been a light blue person, so this is not my cup of tea, but I think it does look nice generally. But interestingly, if you come to the US, the glacier blue option is not available. And even more interestingly, the black option is not available either. So the only options you have right now are gray, silver, white, and ultra red. So it's kind of weird that we don't get a blue anymore, and especially black. That's a very generic car color. Not sure what the whole deal is there. But of the colors that we have, what do you think looks best? For me, right now, it's all about that silver. Now, the last thing on the exterior here is that there is a front-mounted camera in the bumper, like we see with the Cybertruck. This is great. If you remember back to the Model 3, we actually had press images of this camera on the Model 3 as well, but for some reason, they did not include it and still haven't, but we have it here on the Model Y, so that's great, and hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully that means we can get some kind of 360 camera view at some point. They haven't done that with the Cybertruck, but maybe they'll do it here with this car. Now, with this new design, it's not all about looks, of course. There's a 4% improved aerodynamic efficiency on the outside, and you can see little details here and there that make that possible, but at first glance, it doesn't look all that different from the previous model. But considering how popular this car is, well, that's probably for the best. Now, like I said, on the inside, it's very similar to what we saw with the Model 3, and so there's not all that much to say here, but there is one huge difference here, and that's that there is, in fact, a stock built in for your turn signal. So in the Model Y Juniper, you do not have to click a button on the wheel. Instead, you have a regular stock. And well, because this is such a popular car and for the demographic that Tesla's going after, well, they didn't want to alienate them. And, in my experience with driving, Model S and X and Model 3 Highland and the Cybertruck, those all have the turn signal on the steering wheel now. And that is by far the hardest thing to get used to. The Prindle on the screen, not a big deal. You get used to that pretty quickly, but having to click the buttons on the steering wheel for the turn signal, it's something you do get used to, but it's not like a, overnight success. You have to continuously remind yourself, oh yeah, I got to click the button on the wheel. And then if you're in mid-turn, then it's in a different location. It gets kind of weird. So I totally get why they added the stock. It's just kind of funny that, this is the one car that has it. And so the wheel doesn't have those buttons there, but instead has the other buttons that you'd expect. Now that aside, of course, we get things like ventilated seats, we get the RGB lighting, we get the just general new design. The screen is slightly bigger. You get the 8-inch display in the back seat, so for everyone in there, they can get entertainment. But I think most importantly for me is that this is supposed to be 20% quieter thanks to new glass and just better build quality. That would be nice because the Model Y right now is not the quietest car in the world. And then pair that with the updated suspension that should be, or is promised to be, much more comfortable, much more supple. This should hopefully lead to just a much more relaxing and better drive overall. And hopefully that's true because now there is a 16 speaker sound system built in. So hopefully, the road noise is quiet. So you can actually listen to that and get some really great sound at it. Tesla makes some of the best sound systems, the stock sound systems on the market. So I'm excited to listen to this one. Now, when it comes to range, which for an EV is important, that probably will realistically be around 300 miles all day, which is good. That's not bad at all. It doesn't seem to be as improved as maybe some of us were hoping. Charging speeds don't seem to be improved. It kind of seems to be all the same stuff, just brought over to this new car. A bit of a disappointment, but I don't know. I guess if from Tesla's perspective, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And well, this car is selling like crazy, so it's probably not that big of a deal. I just wish maybe there was a little bit of a bigger push there. But yeah, overall, this seems to be a pretty solid car, and they're definitely going to be selling a ton of them, especially once they come out with the lower non-launch edition models. And I think that's important because, well, the Tesla Model Y is continuously the top performer for Tesla, and it is often one of the best selling cars in the world, not just for Tesla, but ever. And I think this car is desperately needed. They sold about 385,000 Model Ys in 2023. That dipped a little bit in 2024. So with this new model, hopefully they will see that rise even faster because I think there was just a lot of people that knew this update was coming and just kind of held it out. I don't know, maybe that's not true. I just get that feeling. Apparently, Tesla China is forecasting that they're going to sell about 525,000 of these cars in 2025. Well, that is a lot. What does that mean for here in the US? We're not exactly sure. Right now, competition in the EV market is just growing greater and greater. So Tesla really did need something for the Model Y to kind of give it that bit of a boost. And well, I guess time will tell to see if this is what does it. I have a feeling it will. Obviously, there's all this like political and news stories around Tesla that may affect it. That is yet to be seen. We'll see what effect that really does have. But in terms of just the car, I think Tesla has a winner on their hands, and I'm gonna try and get my hands on one as soon as possible. But the new Model Y Juniper is here, and well, I'm excited for it.